Hello, everyone. Hello. How are you doing? You thought I forgot, huh? You thought I forgot about what I said I was going to do about our 10-week themed series. Heck no. I didn't forget. I didn't forget. I was just giving it some days. Welcome to Transformational Tantra, the Quantum Self-Love series. Welcome, welcome. We are on class number 2. The first week was an introduction. There was no homework the first week, but there will be homework this week. So please give me a day to upload them to my website at www.wisdomspeaks.com. And with that, y'all, let's get into it. So we are going to be talking about the observer effect in the quantum series, and then how that relates to real change for you. So let's go and get started, y'all. All right, disclaimer. So it is very important to celebrate your hard work and your journey, but please remember, and I know some of y'all get tired of me saying this, I'm going to keep saying this. This is for educational purposes only, okay? Please always seek the help of a professional before beginning any program. That can be weight loss, mental health, what else have you, all right? If you become triggered during this, please stop the video, take some time to reset. If you can't come back to it, that is absolutely okay. This is at your pace and at your time. There's no rush. Any self-help work moves at your pace and the love of you. So please don't ever feel like you got to rush into it. You got to speed demon through anything. No. But if you do see a counselor and mental health provider, please make sure that it is okay, whatever it is that you're doing, that it helps you on your journey. I am an ordained minister. I am a credentialed teacher. I am a life coach. I have experience in what I'm talking about from what I've lived through, what I have observed in the universal laws, and then putting it all together, behavior, everything. So let's get to that, y'all. All right, so being a teacher, I just know how to teach. Okay, I just know how to teach. So every time we teachers have a lesson, this is for you parents so you understand, we have objectives. We have something, excuse me, in mind that we want your student to know and to be able to do. So my objective for you, these are my objectives for you. The student will be able to get a basic understanding of how the behaviors of the observation of particles relate to how we act upon our own perceptions. Okay. They realize that in looking at the behavior of how particles act is very similar to how humans act. We're going to get there, right? Once you identify why or how we change ourselves to fit others' perceptions of us, and then try to find a better solution toward our own authenticity. What you will need is a pencil, paper, and highlighters. Computer, of course, it is, but I'm saying that because when it comes to the homework, that's what you're going to need. Now, what are we learning today? All right. The quantum concept of the observer effect and how in quantum physics, observing particles changes their behavior. Okay. Similarly, when you observe yourself with kindness and embrace positive self-talk, you're influencing your reality. So it's like telling the universe, hey, I'm awesome, and then watching that actually happen. Now, you may be asking me, what you mean? What are you saying about that? Sorry about that, y'all. So what it's saying is particles act a particular way when they know they're being observed. They will act like the norm when they know that they're being observed. And you may be like, what? Are you for real? We're going to get into it. Why are we learning this? Okay. Our perception, the presentation of our perception, and to put it in practice. Okay. That's why. So I need you through this whole series to be open to learning, willing to learn, being honest with yourself with what you do, how you do things, so you can get a perspective and an awareness within yourself of how you're doing things, and no judgment. You are not to judge yourself. What do you mean, Divine? Okay, if you sit up there and say, oh, I do that, stupid me. No, don't do that. Because you're speaking. I want you to understand the whole thing about quantum, right? You're speaking your reality, you're thinking your reality, you're doing your reality into existence. So you have to align yourself with what you want to see in your reality. Okay. We have quantum fields and energy fields around us all the time. We generate our reality. So it's so important. That's why in my other videos, I'm going to say it again. It is so important to be careful of what you think, to be careful of what you speak. Got it? All right. And most importantly, love yourself through the process. Okay, are we ready now? Are we ready to get to it? Okay, let's go. The observer effect. Here's your big idea, question. How are you perceiving your life right now? Now, that is a huge general question. Well, what do you mean? We're going to get there. So let's take a look at it. And I have my notes as usual. All right. How we perceive our life directly influences the quantum energy around us and what we produce into our life. Okay. So the observer effect are these elements, and there's a number of elements that it includes. Influence and observation or measurement of the quantum system. So in regular physics, the observation is passive. It has no effect on the particles that's being observed. Okay. The particles just do what they do. But in the quantum realm, energy influences it so it can disturb the state of the particle. And it knows, as I had said before, it is being observed. That is freaking amazing. Can you imagine something so small knows and changes its behavior upon knowing it is being looked at? Okay. So, to explain this, and those of you that know quantum physics and that know physics, know about the split experiment. This is when the particles were left alone. There were two splits in a board. When particles were left alone and allowed to be free, unobserved, right? They would pass through these slots in a formed interference pattern. They were in a way thinking for themselves, if you will. But when they knew they were being observed, the pattern disappeared. And they behaved like classic particles would behave. Okay, go look it up. It is really actually cool. So, what that means is like wave particle duality. Okay, here's the other one. So, like we have our own duality within ourselves. Electrons of an atom, for example, can behave like a wave or a particle, but when observed, that changed. So, into a definitive state that is observable in one state, but not both. Okay. Like our own duality, light versus dark, good versus evil, all that is dependent upon our environment outside of us that shapes us. Okay. That we're in. So what is enacted upon us from others, right? Most of us think it's in our best interest to behave, especially at work, when we don't want to be ostracized, or especially at school. We don't want to be ostracized by anybody. We don't want to be looked down upon by anyone. So then we groupthink and we think like everyone else. We move like everyone else. We want to fit in like everyone else. We want to be cool. A lot of us. Okay. That's not all of us. A lot of us. So we behave in a particular way to get something. If you look at the entertainment industry, right? You don't go along to get along. You don't get anything. You don't get that good gig. You don't get that movie. You act a way to get something, right? May not be who you really are, but you do it because it has something in the end for you. Well, we will exhibit what is expected or rely on what we know to produce a favorable outcome for everyone. Sometimes, for example, in group sports, right? And we may feel we know better Coach will say something different. The rest of the team will say something different. And you go along with the team for the best interest of the team, not to let anyone down, not to mess anything up, because heaven forbid you mess something up and everyone blames you, right? That's what that means. That's what I mean. So, next one. Interesting. This one's really interesting. So, how particles act and the observer effect when no conscious observer is needed. What this means is any interaction with the particle will change the flow of the quantum state, causing what is called the collapse of the observable quantum state. So, let me explain. If we feel in our intuition that we're being observed by someone outside, right? We will, unless defiant or forcing an outcome, exhibit the behavior that produces the best outcome for our own comfort or stability in our internal environment. That's a little different from the one before, okay? In our own internal environment. Now we're talking about externally what affects us. That was the last one. I'm talking about what internally affects us, okay? We will convince ourselves, we will, whatever it takes to create a stability within us. Whether or not it's really what we want to do. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It's interesting, this one, because when they talk about the collapse of the observable quantum state, that's when we were talking about how particles will act upon their own until observed, right? Same thing. When we feel we're being observed, and say this is us by ourselves, when we feel we're being observed, okay, whether, again, at work and the boss wants you to act a particular way, you will, unless your behavior is, I don't care, and being defiant, or unless you're trying to manipulate the other person, right? You will show a behavior that gets you that praise. You will show a behavior, but for your own stable well-being, for your own perceived notion that you're succeeding. Okay? Measurement. So, any interaction that reveals the information about a quantum state, leading to its change or into the collapse probability distribution of that given state, not just human observation. Let me explain. So, in other words, baseline behavior. What do I always say about baseline behavior? When you are starting to change your behavior, you have to get a baseline of where you're at real time. Okay? So, we're talking about baseline behavior, where you're starting from, versus when the behavior changes, including the degree of reaction. So, my baseline behavior may be I'm mean all the time. I'm angry all the time. And so I'm barking at people all the time. And someone comes by and they could say the wrong thing. 0.5 seconds. That's how long it took to yell, scream, whatever it is at that person. Okay? The degree of the reaction, of the observation to the who's observing, of the subject of the antecedent. The antecedent is what causes the behavior. And the degree of change. How much did you change? Measurement of how much from being your regular state to the change in behavior. How fast, how much, how big was the antecedent? Where did you jump to? How long did it take you get there? Those type of things. Measurements. So when we're talking about the collapse of the probability, is when they go from free-flowing non-observation to being observed, changing behavior. Okay? Divine. Okay, that's great. You even gave us a whole bunch of science. I don't even know if I want to know. Why? Why is this important? My loves. This is important because of this. Actual observable behavior we naturally have. Where you are, where you think you are authentically. This is why this is important. A lot of times we think we are authentic and we are not. It is other people's perceptions of us, other people's, oh, you don't want to do that, you want to do this. Other people's, you should do that. You really should consider that. Instead of what we want to do, who we are, how we naturally behave. Sometimes we don't know how we naturally behave because other people tell us. We change based on other people's facial expressions of what we see on their face. So we'll change it so we don't get that disapproval from them. And we'll change everything we are. That's very prevalent in teenagers and parents. Parents tell teenagers all the time what they want to be, or if the teenage tells them what they want to be, that parent will make doggone sure they will, and then something over the moon, and then all of a sudden you're hearing, well, I spent all this money, you're going to do this, when the child is no longer interested, which makes sense because that's a child. They change all the time. You understand what I'm saying? So the actual observable behavior we have, this is why this is important. Are we different from our natural state when we're alone to when we're being watched by someone else? To what degree, measurement, and why? You understand? So some of y'all might say, well, yeah, of course. I mean, I go to work. I don't act this way at work. Why? Did you ever have elders say to you, how you act in the street should be no different from how you act at work? Well, wait a minute. I go to the bar, I go to the club, I turn it up, I do this. When I go to work, I'm okay. So why aren't you carrying that same degree of poise and grace when you going out? You can still turn up, but you can still have class and poise. You understand what I'm saying? You can still be in a state of you. And if you are that type that is loud out there and stuff like that, why can't you find a middle ground in both places that's you? You understand? Just for an example. So to review, okay? Particles' behavior changes based upon being observed. Particles act differently when left alone like we do. Even items that have a dual particle-like behavior, like atoms. Atoms make up our body. Atoms make up all matter, right? Will choose one observable state when it is aware that it's being watched. It does not even have to be conscious or human observing it. That's the cool thing about it. A particle will change no matter what is observing it. Doesn't have to even be consciously being observed. It will know. Any interaction upon it reveals information about its quantum state behavior and is measured to the point to collapse quantum state. Upon knowing it's being observed, and produces a quantum probability distribution. If any of you are familiar with the bell curve and what a bell curve looks like, think about that. In the middle, the standard deviation is the norm, right? 2 standard deviations out, positive or negative direction, those are outliers, and we usually throw those out. But I don't believe we should throw those out when we're collecting a data set. You can totally tell I'm a teacher. So, because, and to be honest with you, when we're assessing special needs kids, that's how they assess them, based on a bell curve, or that's how they used to, when we were using the discrepancy model. And if you fell outside the norm of the bell curve, at least 2 standard deviations, you were considered to have actually it's in negative direction, you were considered to have a disability. If you were 2 standard deviations up, you were considered gate. 2 standard deviations down, you were considered to have a different type of special need or a deficit. And what I mean by gate is gifted and talented. Okay, so this is important in human relation because the behavior is observable and measurable from an internal personal environment to what is produced on the outside. Remember, I had said before, okay, in the first class, I had told you your environment is out, comes in internal. What is internal comes out, and it is a loop like this and constantly going. But if you want to change that loop, you must look at the authenticity of you and what you're really producing. That even includes in the manifestation state. Now, what does this have to do with me, Divine? Okay, you didn't say all that. What does this have to do with me? Okay, because to see real time how your behavior changes from when you are truly you to when you are being observed by other people real time, right? Then you're not being authentic to your true spirit if you're changing. If you're changing to fit something. Now, this is big. Okay, this is big because some people are like, "Oh, Divine, wait a minute. I can't act the way I do with my family, that I do at work, that I do here." But all of it is you, or none of it is you, or some of it is you. And how much of that is authentic? And that is the purpose of this whole class here, and getting you to look at how much of you, of your behavior, one, how much of it is you? Where did you get it from? Is it really you? Why do you have to change? And if you have to change, to what degree and how much do you have changed? What is your baseline behavior to where you changed from? You understand? Now, next section is a you do. My apology, y'all. Next section is a you do. Okay? And what that means is there's a series of questions that I want you to answer in your journal. This is not the homework, this is journal work. And we're going to go through those questions in a second. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, so question number 1. What perception of yourself keeps you from being authentic? Question number 2. What do you change about yourself to fit into society? And here's some deep thought questions. And when they come to deep thought questions, you don't have to answer them like on paper. But if you feel the need to, please do. It is up to you if it's helpful. Some of your questions are, who are you when the lights go out? That's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, when you're you by yourself, who are you? You know, who are you when you wake up? When you're alone? Um, what do you really think about when no one else is around? All right. Um, why do we change who we are for others? Why do we feel the need to? Those type of questions. All right. Now you're gonna get some free bonus pages. Now these bonus pages are at my website. So all you need to do is sign up with your email to be able to access, these files. But this is the homework I was telling you about that I'm going to give y'all to do for free, and just getting you to think about really when you change your behavior and why, when people are around or people observing you, or when you're doing something that people are kind of like, you know, do you change you? It's really all about that. Okay. And each lesson, each class will have assignments each week. So again, my disclaimer, um, if this has triggered you in some way, and thinking about these questions and you're feeling kind of overwhelmed, take time, stop, take time. If you need psychological help, please see a counselor or a therapist. I am not a therapist or a counselor. Please seek help and get the support that you need. I cannot stress that enough. Get the support that you need. This program is always for educational purposes, always for the betterment of us toward our higher selves, the betterment of all sentient beings toward our higher selves, for the love of ourselves and for the love of others. That is the intention of the program. That is the intention for these themes to help you out. All right, my loves, I hope that helps you. I am so grateful for you joining us. And I am so incredibly, glad to be walking with you on this journey. As I say all the time, you're walking it, I'm walking it. Totally get it, totally understand, but we got this. I want you to understand, my loves. We got this. All right, my loves. Take care now.